The Cuban Missile Crisis, a turning point in history. On October 16, 1962, President John F. Kennedy was notified by George Bundy that an American U-2 spy plane had taken an aerial shot of Cuba and had found a number of deadly nuclear missiles along the coast about 90 miles away from Florida. The nuclear missiles, if shot, would be strong enough to damage almost all of America. John F. Kennedy knew that he needed to keep this a secret from the rest of America until he had a plan about what he would do. He took immediate action. It was a very intense 13 days. Kennedy had a lot of pressure. One wrong decision could cost the lives of 100 million Americans and 100 million Russians. He called secret meetings to plan on what he would do about the missiles. The missiles that were found on the island of Cuba were from the Soviet Union. At the time, Nikita Khrushchev was the leader of the Soviet, while Fidel Castro was the leader of Cuba. The missiles were a severe threat to America.
The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere.
There are a few different reasons that the Soviet was thought to have put the missiles in Cuba. First, so that the Soviet wouldn't fall behind in nuclear capabilities against America, and second, to protect Cuba, which was also another communist country. The world had no idea any of this was going on yet. It was the war between three men. Because of the urgency taken by John F. Kennedy, the Cuban Missile Crisis was managed and resolved quickly, preventing a nuclear war and becoming a defining moment in history. After a week of secret speculation and evaluation of many different options, it was decided that a naval blockade would be sent to Cuba to prevent any more shipments of Soviet missiles from reaching them.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, where they're found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back.
Because John F. Kennedy took charge and called the blockade, what could have happened, such as a nuclear war, did not happen. If it had been handled any differently, we may not be alive today, which makes the Cuban Missile Crisis a turning point in history. At 7 p.m. on October 22nd, the president gave his speech to inform the nation of the missiles and his plan of action. Kennedy stated that until the Soviet removed the missiles from Cuba, there would be a naval quarantine around the island. He then signed a proclamation stating his plans for the quarantine. While the three men were trying to find a resolution, the world was anxiously awaiting an end to the crisis. For many people who lived through it, it was one of the scariest memories of their lives.
I remember when the announcement happened and my family reacted with, the world is going to end, and it had something to do with Cuba. I was 7 years old at the time, and it was quite an impression. We sat and thought, where would they strike first? We've had this, it was a sort of a surreal conversation. I was very afraid.
It's personal. You're sitting there in this very small island with nuclear weapons pointed to a huge, huge country, with the possibilities that they're going to bomb each other back and forth. And, there would be talk that this would have been much greater than Hiroshima. So it's very personal.
John F. Kennedy took care of the crisis with a positive attitude. He even said, "When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity."